The views and opinions expressed are that of the individuals and are not the reflections of any Grand Masonic body. The goal in this video series is to enlighten the minds of our viewers with Masonic education for the modern Freemason, wherever they might be. Take due notice thereof and govern yourselves accordingly. This is Modern Working Tools, today's tools for the modern Freemason. I am your host, Brother Justice, broadcasting live from Barrington 522 in Barrington, Illinois.
Good evening, brethren. I am your host, Brother Justice, of Masonic Working Tools, today's tools for the modern Freemason. And I am broadcasting live this evening from our lovely lodge, Barrington 522. And I do have a short little lecture this evening, something about the Masonic calendar, the Masonic dating system. You know, what is it? As Freemasons, this is something that I feel that we should know, but it's not always readily taught to candidates progressing through our system of degrees. Usually this topic is a little obscure, and we do see these dates on our cornerstones in our temples, various cathedrals, lodges, etc. Any Masonic monument will have most likely a cornerstone with a date on there. If you could check on your lodge next time to see if you have one, I'd be interested to know the dates of some of your lodges. As you can see here in my mother lodge here in Barrington, before it was renamed Barrington, it was once named Lounsbury Lodge, number 751 AF and AM. Chartered 1877, building erected 1872, remodeled for Masonic Temple 1931. So this is our typical cornerstone of our lodge here. And the cornerstone is synonymous with Freemasonry. In the ancient craft guilds, and particularly you learn about this in the York Rite, but an operative craft mason would mark their work after they were finished so they could get paid for their wages. And each mark mason has a mark. We'll get into that at another time, but for right now, let's get into this little topic. Now, I'm by no means a Roman or Greek expert or even a French expert, so you might hear me butcher some of these words, but bear with me. Now this here is the Fasti Antiatis Majoris reconstruction, and it is a painted wall calendar from the late Roman Republic. The oldest archaeologically attested local Roman calendar, and the only such calendar known from before the Julian Calendar reforms. So this even predates Julius Caesar's calendar. It was created between 84 and 55 BC and discovered in 1915 at Anzio, the ancient Antium, in a crypt next to the coast. It is now located in the Palazzo Massimo alle Terme in Rome. Now this is a reconstruction of that. I'm assuming the original was probably damaged or partially available. Now, with Freemasonry, it's very important being able to tell time, because you know, we learn about that, how the workmen got paid their wages, how they divided their time into equal parts, things like that. You do learn that as you progress through our degree, so it's very important to get into this topic about Masonic dating, Masonic calendar. So as you can see here, this is a vertical declining sundial. It's from Moot Hall in Aldeburgh, Suffolk, England. The gnomon is a rod that is very narrow, so it functions as the style. The Latin motto loosely translates as, quote, "I only count the sunny hours," end quote. So this is a little bit more contemporary. As you can see, this one's from the 16th century, the half of the 16th century. So it is a little bit more updated, a little bit more modern. Now this one right here is a horizontal dial commissioned in 1862. The gnomon is the triangular blade. The style is in its inclined edge. So as you can see in this photo, you see the shadow casted. That's how they were able to tell time. This is actually more modern. This was from the 18th century. So as you can see, there's been some modifications to the preciseness and how they tell the time. Now, so what does this all mean? What is the purpose of learning about, calendars, how to tell time? What's the meaning behind it all? Now, the Julian Calendar, it was initially proposed by Julius Caesar in 46 BC, and it was a reform of the old Roman calendar that I just showed you. It took effect on January 1st, 45 BC by edict, and it was designed with the aid of Greek mathematicians and astronomers of the time. The calendar became the predominant calendar in the Roman Empire, and subsequently most of the Western world, for more than 1,600 years until 1582, when Pope Gregory promulgated a minor modification to reduce the length of the average year from 365.25 days to 365.2425 days, and thus corrected the Julian calendar's drift against the solar year. Now, in its worldwide adaptation of this revised calendar, it became known as the Gregorian Calendar. And that's the calendar that we've been using for subsequent centuries. First used in Catholic countries, and then also later on in Protestant countries in the Western Christian world. And up until this day, we still use that calendar now. Now, the source for that was the explanatory supplement to the Astronomical Zodiac, 3rd edition by E.G. Richards, 2013. So now that's a little backstory on older dating systems to more recent dating systems that we still use today. Now let's get into the good stuff. As Freemasons, we have our own version of a dating system that we sort of made. And if you look at our cornerstones, you will see this exemplified on those. Now, let me go back to the photo here. Here we go. So on the cornerstones that you see in most lodges, cathedrals, temples, etc., monuments that Freemasons have erected to the public, you will see something on there called AL. There's other variations of it. We'll get into that as well. Now, what does that mean, AL, and then a date? And the date doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really fit into our modern calendar. Why is that? I don't know, but we're going to get into that right now. So, Masons of the York and French Rites, i.e. Masons of England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Germany, and America, date from the creation of the world, calling it Anno Lucis, which is abbreviated AL, signifying in the year of the light. Thus, the year 1872 would then be AL 5872. And how you get that number is you add 4,000 to the vulgar era. This has a symbolic reference to the light of Masonry. In the Scotch Rite, now known as the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite, the era also begins from the date of the creation. But Masons of that rite, using the Jewish chronology, would call the year 1872 AM, or Anno Mundi, in the year of the world, 5632. And you will add 3,760 to the Vulgar era. Sometimes the initials AH are used, signifying Anno Hebraico, or in the Hebrew year. They have also adopted the Hebrew months, therefore the year ends with them on the 16th of September, and the new year begins on the 17th of the same month, which is the first of Tisri. In the York Rite, the year begins on the 1st of January, but in the French Rite, it begins on the 1st of March. And instead of the months receiving their usual names, they are designated numerically, as 1st of January 1872 would thus be called the first day of the 11th Masonic month, Anno Lucis 5876. The French sometimes use L'An de la Vielle, Vraie Lumière, signifying year of true light. Now, the source for this was The Perfect Ceremonies of Ancient Craft Masonry and the Holy Royal Arch by Masonic Book Club 2021. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into the Masonic dating. You could take some of this information and do a little bit more research on your own, and you will yield some interesting information. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this lecture. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this program. I am your host, Brother Justice, signing off. Until next time, to be one, ask one.